What got me started in wrestling was pretty much I used to get beat up by my older cousins and my older brothers because I wanted to watch Sailor Moon. For you, those of you who don't know who Sailor Moon is, Sailor Moon's an anime cartoon that used to come on Cartoon Network in the 90s, and it was very popular with little girls, kind of like the Powerpuff Girls, but if the Powerpuff Girls were like 6'1" and could do karate. So I used to get beat up for trying to change the channel to Sailor Moon from wrestling. So it was either get beat up trying to change the channel or sit down and shut up and watch wrestling. So eventually I learned to sit down and shut up and watch wrestling. And when I was watching wrestling, I became so engulfed with the characters and so engulfed with the storyline that I started acting them out with my Barbies and stuff, which I did not play very nice with my Barbies, by the way, anyway. So they're pretty much like action figures. But I started acting them out. Then I started learning stuff from, the episodes. I got picked up a lot of bad habits because I started saying, suck it and things like that when people would piss me off in school. And I was like in like middle school, and I'm like telling my teacher to suck it because she made me mad or she gave me a bad grade. So I picked up a lot of habits. I started performing moves with my brothers. Like when they were changing the channel, I'm like, no, I'm watching this. I would like drop the elbow or something like that, which at that time it was unsafe, but I don't suggest you try any of those moves at home. But at that time, nobody told me those things, so I was doing it. So that's how I got into wrestling. And then it went from just me watching every day to me actually wanting to do this. So I used to make up my own entrance theme with songs off the radio and practice my entrance, gave myself a diva name and everything. Like started making my own storylines with me in it. It was just crazy. Like I used to get picked on so bad in like middle school and high school because I was never up on like the latest trends or latest new music or anything like that. But I knew what was going on in wrestling. Like my planner, which used to write your homework down every day, was covered in like John Cena stickers and Edge and Christian stuff. Like I just had everyone. I go to every little candy machine and get stickers from like WWE, WWF at the time, and put them all over my planner. And I used to get joked. They were like, "Why do you like wrestling?" And they used to use the F word, which I'm not gonna say. They say, "Oh, wrestling's so F word," and I'm like, "No, it's real to me." So I used to get picked on a lot. So eventually, it became something very real for me. Like it became an outlet. It became a so what you pick on me, but I know that deep down in my heart that this is something I love. So when I got old enough and I got grown, I went out and found my own wrestling school, and I signed myself up, and I paid for it myself, and I just attended classes until I graduated, and I've been, like, training ever since on the road, like, just doing my thing. I know
Well,
it's kind of long. I'm so sorry.
no, 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 not at all. I found it very intriguing, considering what you had to go through in order to get into this profession that you now do for a living. And what's very interesting is that what you had to go through with your own family. And, uh,
Yeah.
and let me ask you this: now that you are a wrestler to this day, how all those same cousins feel about you now? Do they now know not to mess with you when you on watching your favorite TV shows or interrupt you or anything? Like, or is it still you know?
They're very supportive, actually. Like, the cousins that were actually, like, taking the beatings once I started learning, they are very supportive. They've always been my biggest fans, and, like, now it's like, yeah, they still mess with me just because they want to see if I'll actually react. But now they know, to approach with caution. Like, there's a certain limit that once you kick me off, I just go into, like, blackout mode. Especially if I'm watching Empire. I love Empire. Like, don't
Oh
nobody mess with me when
yes,
yeah,
yes.
don't nobody mess with me when I'm watching Empire. Because if you mess with me when I'm watching Empire, you're liable to lose an eye, a finger, a tooth or something.
In other words, you channel your inner cookie. That's what
Yes,
that
I
is.
love cookies.
Yeah, shout out to Taraji P Henson. I mean, she will make her character will be a great wrestling character. I think she could be like that valet, and Terrence Howard's character will be like a wrestler or whatever. Oh my goodness, Empire need to that someone needs to come up with some a similar character to that. That would be great. That would be
That
absolutely
would
great.
be the ultimate. That would be the ultimate character to be like. You
Yes.
could just be like, look, I'm Cookie. I'm here to, you got to name yourself Brownie or something else. You can't be Cookie.
Yes.
You just got to come in and you just got to, or Cupcake or something like that. You got to come in and own the place. You got to not only just own the place, you got to dress like you own the place too. And outfits be bomb.
Mm, yes, indeed. So as far as your wrestling is concerned, what was the training process like? Going to class, learning the fundamentals, taking the bumps and bruises. Like, what was that experience like?
Well, my first experience, like the first ever school that I went to was a very trying school that I went to. So if you're going to talk about bumps and bruises, that's where really honestly I got a lot of my character builders. The first school I ever went to was very sexist. They said they welcomed females, and they've only had one female graduate from their school in 8 years since before I had set foot into that school. So for me, it was like when I came in, I didn't know much about the business. I only knew what I saw on TV, which is not the whole thing to the business now. Now I know way more than just what's on TV. But I came in as like an innocent, if you told me something about wrestling at that school, I'd believe you because I had no knowledge. And that's the problem with a lot of wrestling schools is they take people who are eager and willing to learn, and they take that and they take that vulnerability and they kind of try to get over on them. So at the school that I was at originally, the first one, they kind of very sexist, and they almost went to the sort of, you can call it sexual harassment, because I was the only girl in the class. Not the other people that I trained with, but the other guys that I trained with were sexually harassing me. Some of the trainers, who I will not name, but were very inappropriate, like teaching 10 punches and like trying to stick your crotch into a female's face and she's trying to be taken seriously. That's not how you train. So with that bad experience, I kind of took that and I was like, okay, I have to find another way for my dream, to make my dream come true. And that wasn't the first thing that it was done to me at that school. Like, there was a whole issue of getting a license. To wrestle in the state of Virginia, you need a license. So getting a license, I got lied to about the price of a license. It was supposed to be originally $150 is what they told me, but the license was only $40.
Mm.
So clearly they were trying to pocket the cash and get over on someone who didn't know. Thankfully for me, I had people in the wrestling community that I was friends with and had been in the business for like 5, 10 years. Some of them that's in the Ring of Honor and back, And they were like, "Are you kidding me? $150 for what?" They were like, "It's only $40 to get a license." And so that night kind of was like the final straw for that school, and I left that school. I started training with, I don't know if you're familiar with them, Sean and Mark Denny, the Dirty Bulldogs, one of the most outspoken tag teams here in Virginia. And I just hopped on the road with them. I became their manager, their valet. I sat on the sidelines and listened and watched and, actually sat there on the days that we were getting there early. I set up the ring, got in the ring, and they were teaching me the things that I left off at that school. So taking bumps and bruises, that was a hard adjustment to make. I think when I took my first set of bumps, I couldn't move my back, my lower back, my upper back, and my neck for about a good 24 hours. So, it kind of felt like I was paralyzed from the waist up, but only on my backside. Then I think the next biggest thing was me getting over my fear of people picking me up. I had a bad experience in high school where I was doing cheerleading, and I had someone pick me up, and they threw me up for a basket toss, and they completely shot me, and I landed on my face. So I had a traumatizing experience with that, so that was the next thing I had to get over. In wrestling, it's a lot of getting over your fears and getting over yourself. If you can get over yourself and get over your fears and get out of your head, then you can pretty much accomplish anything you set your mind. And so for me, it was, I just left my school. I'm now on the road training. Like, I don't have a set schedule for when I was going to get ring time at that time. It was kind of like my world was kind of crashing down, but I was staying focused. I was like, I know that I'm going to be this big bad, women, women's professional wrestler. Like, I'm going to be one of the best. Like, that's my goal, is to be one of the best. So I kept that goal in mind, and I kept going, and eventually I got myself, I rolled with Sean and Mark Jimmy to Steve Carino's PWF, where he wrestles at, sometimes partakes in the booking. I won't say he runs it because I don't know exactly, but he is a very frequent face there. And I said, hey, Mr. Carino, would you mind looking at what I got? Got there early, got in the ring, rolled around for him, showed him a few moves, and shout out to Traffic Taylor, because she was his trainee that got in the ring and rolled around with me. And she was actually my very first opponent, like official opponent, since I had left the school. And he pretty much was saying, you really did your homework. And he was like, all right, your book. He was like, we'll have a women's match at this place. It was called Mac Daddy's, somewhere in North Carolina near Crystal Coast, I believe that's the name of it, Crystal Coast. And it was me and Cassidy, and we did the most simplest match ever. But it was, to me, it felt like I had just won, like, the NBA Finals. And for them to actually tell me that I did a very good job and that couldn't tell that it was my first match, I think that spoke volumes to me and my persistence, even though I came from a struggle of where a school that was right down the street from me, that was, at my every whim, really, like, turned me off from my dream, tried to turn me off from my dream. And I'm here making this statement saying that I want to be taken seriously. And I put on a good match, my first official match. And it was like a dream come true. So I think I've kind of gotten to the point where now, I'm to the point now where I know what I can do. I know what I'm capable of. I'm just excited to see what, I hold for the future. Like, what can I just, pretty much amaze myself with? Because I'm not out to amaze everyone else. I'm out to amaze myself. It's just, is that weird? I mean, I guess that's kind of weird, if you say that. Like I don't care about other people's opinions. That's not what I'm saying. It's that I constantly, every day, I make strides, and I make, I achieve goals that I couldn't achieve before, that I was too scared to do before. And it's like, now I'm just excited to see what other goals, I get to. Like, one of my goals is I want to be able to do, top rope moonsault at one point in my life. And I'm in the process of getting over myself because, like I said, I have a fear of being dropped and all this stuff. So I'm getting over that fear, and every day I'm trying. I'm climbing up there. I'm jumping. Like, I'm climbing, jumping, climbing, jumping. So I just roll with the punches. Whatever opportunity you tell me no, I'm going to say, okay, you said no, but I'm going to keep going until somebody says yes.
Good for you, sister. Good for you. You definitely overcome a lot. You dealt with a lot, especially the training, um, and you being probably the only female that was there, and what you have dealt with was definitely inexcusable, uncalled for. Something like that should not be tolerated. Um, and fortunately for you, that you was able to overcome it, and you have developed, you have blossomed into this wrestler that you are today. It definitely helped build your character, and it definitely showed, because in wrestling business, and I'm just saying, I'm a fan. I don't have a wrestling background. I'm just a guy that watches on TV, and a guy that watched indie shows. But what I am starting to understand the struggle of what wrestlers have to go through, whether it's through the indies or in the pros, so that nothing comes easy, and that you have to fight to get to not only get to get the respect and earn the respect. And from what I've seen of you, and from what I've heard from people saying about you, I mean, positively, you definitely have earned a lot of people's respect, and I give you mad kudos for what you have done and what you have accomplished thus far.
Thank you so much. That's my biggest thing. I'm all about respect. I'm originally from the South, so like, it's a big thing on respect. So coming into the wrestling business, and that was the first thing you learned, was that you shake hands with everybody in the room, that everybody matters. They may not be on the show that night, but everybody matters. And for me, that was like another affirmation as to why I should be in this business, because respect for me is a huge part of my life. And I feel like if I can be in a business that that respect is actually looked at as like a principal qualification, then that's the business I want to be in.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, you recently wrestled up north in Canada for quite a while. You're back in the States now. What was the experience like wrestling in Canada?
Oh my goodness. Wrestling in Canada is really interesting. It's like people say that Canada and the U.S. we don't really have different styles of wrestling. Actually, that's not quite true, because from the way that when my partner and I we were teamed together, this was the first time we ever met each other. But she's from the States as well. Aja Pereira, I'm sure you've heard of her. She's from Georgia, the Georgia area. We were scheduled to be two of the three USA girls that went up there, and it ended up being two USA girls going up there. And we were tagged together, and it was like the first time we had ever tagged. We really don't work as tag wrestlers, but we were like, hey, we'll do it for Canada. We pretty much went in there, and we came out with our own individual styles at first, and she's more of the high flyer meets like superhero, because that's her thing. She's a superhero. And I'm more of a if you will, Lord Stephen Regal, William Regal kind of thinly, like barroom brawler. Like I have the smarts and the strategy. I can do all that whoopie-doo extra stuff that you like to do, but if it's not necessary, if I can beat you on the ground, then I'm going to beat you on the ground. But in Canada, every girl that we met had some kind of style that was very similar to the other. Not saying that they're all the same, but they had a style that was different from us, but it was like it kind of was the same for their region. So as to where we had backstories to our characters, they kind of had accomplishments to their characters. So kind of like if they said their name was, I'm just going to use a random person's name, Sierra something, whatever, Sierra Star, just use her name. I hope that's not a real person, but Sierra Star. She was from Vancouver, BC, British Columbia, and she was active on like Shimmer. She was active on the Shimmer roster, something like that, and she was known to be a very technical wrestler. That was their backstory for their characters. As to where you had me and Aja coming in, and my whole character is I'm a reincarnated Egyptian war queen. I use my strategy and my smarts, and I use my fists instead of my words to accomplish what I need to accomplish. I'm going to conquer you. As to where Aja, even though she was in the heel gimmick, she was a supervillain who was using her powers, like her mind-bending powers, her super strength, things like that, her ability to run really fast, and her ability to be in one place and the next, to, overcome, like, these good doers and try to take over the world. Well, we tried to take over Canada. We formed Canada's most hated tag team, and we literally tried to take over Canada everywhere we went in each town. And her background story was she was from planet Tricericorn. So if you can kind of get, like, the difference, like, in the States, it was like we all have a backstory. We have, interesting parts about our characters, and they have their accomplishments as their backstory, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually, one of those things that people look for is like, what have you done versus, what is your character? I just feel as though in the U.S. it's more common to see what is your character and then what have you done, rather than in Canada it's like what have you done and what's your character. So their wrestling styles it's very interesting. And being on the tour was interesting. It was all girls. It was a few exception of a couple guys that were, up there along with green crew and helping out, filling in spots. on the show. Like they filled in a couple spots on certain shows in certain towns. But it was interesting having all these girls on the tour, all these different personalities. Like we picked up a really proper accent. Like we're from the South. We're both now like we were talking proper for like I guess good 2 days, like pronouncing every E and O and R, and we kept saying A because we were trying to like insert into a casual sentence. And in exchange, we taught them how to do Southern slang. Like, we taught them the or the, oh, girl, or, oh, my goodness, are you okay, honey? Like, things like that. So the last day was very emotional. We all hugged each other and signed our posters. Everybody signed. We got to take one. And on the little posters that we signed, everybody wrote a little note, and all the Canadian girls kept telling us, oh, we're going back to Canada with a little bit more sass thanks to you girls. And we were going back saying that we were going to try to slide A in every casual conversation we have. So, but those girls were actually really incredibly talented. I give it to all of them. Ashley Frost, Banty Hall, Kat Von Hees, of course, my tag team partner that I had out there, Aja Carrera, who's in the States, in Georgia. I give it to all of them. They are incredibly talented, and we're the women that are out here proving that we can hang with the boys. And when I say hang with the boys, you probably can actually get over the boys.
That is awesome.